Let's talk about Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is a porn parody of The Lord of the Rings, starring Aragorn. Give it to you hard. You're gonna be Sauron in the morning, and Boromir, just regular Boromir. Yeah. Game of Thrones is quite possibly one of the biggest TV shows. Shut up. Shut up. Game of Thrones is possibly one of the biggest TV shows to have ever been on TV, and it wasn't even on TV. It was HBO. In fact, it amassed such a huge following that it was almost impossible for it to live up to everyone's expectations. So instead, they lived up to no one's expectations. So what I want to do today is I want to take a moment to try and fix the ending of Game of Thrones. What we're going to do is we're going to retcon the last 3 episodes and part of The Long Night. Okay, so in my version, you know the part where Arya does a touchdown, slam dunk into the Ice King for a home run? That part doesn't happen. Instead of even getting to that part, everyone has to retreat out of Winterfell because they're overrun by a massive army of the dead / undead / White Walkers. And then they're forced all the way back to King's Landing. All of a sudden, they're caught between 2 armies and they're fighting at 2 fronts. This ending is already so much better. Bran wargs into a dragon and he does some cool stuff. Arya is just off being a badass. I'm gonna probably kill Cersei. But then as the battle goes on, everybody's dead. Like it's a battlefield, and Jon Snow is walking through King's Landing. He's obviously injured, right? Jon Snow's walking and he's hurt, and he's just seeing like all these bodies, and on one side there's a dragon, and on the other side is the dragon's head, and he's walking through the middle of it where it used to be, and he walks to the Iron Throne, and he sees the Iron Throne, and sitting on it is the Night King. And the Night King, he reaches up underneath his chin and he pulls off a mask, and it's Jaqen H'ghar. Jaqen H'ghar was the Night King the entire time. No one will see it coming. And he takes his sword out, and he looks at Jon Snow, and he says, Jon Snow, there is only one true God. The camera just pans out. It zooms out. It goes all the way. It goes up, flying, and then we see the opening credits, right? The opening scroll, and it flies out past that, and it flies out into a kitchen. And at the front of at the table, he's sitting behind like a D&D board, and it's young R.R. Martin. He's playing D&D. He's rolling die, and he says. And then Jaqen H'ghar picks up his sword and says, there are things you don't know, Jon Snow. And then he cuts his head off and ends him. And then there's Benioff and Weiss, young Benioff and Weiss, and one's like, oh my God, George R.R. Martin, you're a bastard, George R.R. Martin. And the other one's like, that's not even fair. We don't like that ending either. And then George R.R. Martin Shkreli smiles, and he's like, yes, but now I am the king of the 7 kingdoms. Ha 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 ha! Ha! And then that's how it ends. Is it a good ending? No. Is it a better ending than what we got? Yes. Guys, thank you so much again for watching my video. If you like watching me rewrite the endings of these things, let me know in the comments below with what you want me to, what ending you want me to fix next. Also, go to Twitter and tweet at George R.R. Martin and tell him you want the Jaqen H'ghar cut of Lord of the Rings. Nope. Of Game of Thrones. I just tweeted him to be like, dear George R.R. Martin, Skrelly, we want we want the Jack and Hagar cut for the books. You know, the books you're never gonna read. Be honest, don't. You watch the show and you're not gonna watch the books. Don't even pretend like you are. Like, share, subscribe. Bye.